my back. I think I might need to hunch. Oh, hi. Just kidding. Anyway, happy anniversary to Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Yeah, I definitely have to specify that this is the Disney version that I'm doing for Commentary Companions, given that this is the film's 30th anniversary. But anyway, I have a hunch you can stream The Hunchback of Notre Dame on these platforms. Okay. I'll stop with the hunching jokes. It's probably gonna get old very fast. But anyway, yeah, you can watch it on this, or if you're old-fashioned, you can watch The Hunchback of Notre Dame on video or DVD. But anyway, you'll notice that The Hunchback of Notre Dame features a very outdated slur that is offensive to the Romani people. I'll do my best to not mention said slur. But anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy The Hunchback of Notre Dame from Disney. Welcome to Commentary Companions. I'm your host, Tony Garcia, and today we'll be doing a commentary on The Hunchback of Notre Dame, released in 1986, 30 years ago to this day. Yeah, no joke. I mean, it's like, this film was released the same year I was born, and, well, I figured it's only appropriate to do to pretty much do a commentary on such a classic film that's now 30 years old. I mean, 30 years in the 2000s would have been something from the 1970s, but now 30 years is now from the 90s. Oh boy, and yeah, I do not know how to feel about being 30 years old. But yeah, it's funny. It's like I was in my mom's belly when this film was released. Ain't that just funny? And of course, our reliable narrator is Clopin. Yep, who's voiced by Paul Kendall, who is a musical theater actor who played King Herod in a stage production of Jesus Christ Superstar. But yeah, Clopin's full name is Clopin Trouillefou. I'll spell it out for you. It's Trouillefou. Trouillefou. Clopin Trouillefou, which literally translates to lame fearful. And here, Clopin is animated by Michael Surrey, who has co-animated Aladdin, Timon from The Lion King, Turk from Tarzan, Rourke from Atlantis, The Lost Empire, and Ray the Firefly from The Princess and the Frog. Ah, yes, the monster. Now, the opening scene in which Clopin sings The Bells of Notre Dame was originally all spoken dialogue. After 2 revisions, it was decided that it was too dry and boring, so they decided to turn it into a musical number. Now, isn't that interesting? But yeah, this opening musical number, The Bells of Notre Dame, is one of the best opening numbers that Alan Menken has ever written from his point of view. So I guess you know what his favorite opening number is. And let me tell you, it's one hell of a way to start the film, because this is dark. And of course, they're technically Romani. Anyway, yeah, Quasimodo's mother is actually voiced by the late Mary Kay Berkman, who was a frequent collaborator of Disney, and was also the original voice of Timmy Turner on Fairly OddParents before Tara Strong voiced her. And she also voiced Daphne Blake in a few straight-to-DVD Scooby-Doo movies. And she was also... She also voiced many of the female characters on South Park before her death in 1999. And when I do a Commentary Companions episode on Toy Story 2, I'll tell you what she contributed to. You'll find out, but I'd rather not spoil the surprise. But yeah, rest in peace, Mary Kay Berkman. You left us too soon. Yep. Yeah, it's a bit of a mini Beauty and the Beast reunion. Yeah, the Archdeacon is voiced by the late... shoot, I'm trying to remember his name. Okay. Swear it. Oh yeah, David Ogden Stiers, who also voiced Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast, and he also voiced Governor Ratcliffe in Pocahontas, and so many other characters for Disney. I mean, David Ogden Stiers was very much to Disney what Alan Tudyk is to Disney, always playing different characters, and it's quite interesting. Now, in the original novel, Quasimodo's mother, who is a Romani, steals Esmeralda from her cradle and leaves Quasimodo behind in her place, ideally because she is pretty, because Esmeralda is pretty and Quasimodo is deformed. And basically, so in the novel, Quasimodo's mother straight up abandons him for being ugly. Not exactly nice. This is true. Yeah, Quasimodo's name literally translates to the second Sunday of Easter, the word originating from Latin words that translate to newborn babes. Now, Victor Hugo gave him, our main protagonist, this name to show he was half-formed. And also, he becomes deaf because of the bells. Also, way to hit those high notes, Mr. Paul Candell. And that CG for the bells really is pretty good for 1986. Now here, Quasimodo is animated by James Baxter, and I've mentioned many times all the work that James Baxter has done. Also, yeah, this was actually my first introduction to Tom Hulce, who has been in movies like Animal House and Amadeus, and in Amadeus he portrays Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. I mean, I know some people would be repulsed by Quasimodo's appearance, but here he's actually... I was never repulsed by his appearance because he always seems so gentle. Which is why, you know what they say, beauty is as beauty does. Now, of course, the animated movie is based on the novel by Victor Hugo. In French, it is known as Notre Dame de Paris, published on March 16th, 1831. The Hunchback of Notre Dame eventually got its first English translation in 1833. Now, throughout his lifetime, the novel's book, Victor Hugo, was born on February 26, 1802, and throughout his lifetime, he wrote 40 books. He started writing in 1829. His first novel was Hans of Iceland, in French, Hans the Irlandais. His other stories included The Man Who Laughs, and most popularly, Les Miserables. Hugo was also a poet, a playwright, a journalist, a politician, and a human rights activist. He produced 4,000 drawings. Drawing was something he liked to do. And of course, when he was still alive, Victor Hugo adopted his Hunchback story into a grand opera known as La Esmeralda in 1836. When Victor Hugo died on May 22nd, 1885, all of his works entered the public domain. And so far, as of 2026, The Hunchback of Notre Dame has been adapted 35 times, the oldest being 1905. Another interesting adaptation that I remember from the silent era was from 1923, which starred Lon Chaney as the titular character and was released by Universal Studios. This was back in 1923, and And of course, this was before Lon Chaney was cast as the Phantom of the Opera in 1925, and but yeah, the both of these films, Hunchback of Notre Dame and Phantom of the Opera, starring Lon Chaney, were are now in the public domain due to their copyright being not being renewed, which is kind of interesting. Now, when did Hunchback of Notre Dame get adapted by Disney? Well, in early of 1993, development executive David Stainton pitched the idea to adapt The Hunchback of Notre Dame at the Walt Disney Company. Later in November of 1993, Disney greenlit the project. And of course, Hunchback would see Gary Truesdale and Kirk Wise directing, their second time directing for Disney after Beauty and Beast. And Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was the chairman of Disney Animation at the time, requested to have Truesdale and Wise be the ones to direct, because, he saw gold with those two. After all, they did direct the first animated movie to be nominated for Best Picture. Now, anyway, the story was provided by Tab Murphy, and the screenplay was written by him, Irina Mecchi, Jonathan Roberts, with additional rewrites by Bob Sudiker and Noni White. Now, Tab Murphy was born in Tacoma, Washington, and has also done writing for Tarzan, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Brother Bear, Superman Batman Apocalypse, and Batman Year One. Co-writer Irene Mecchi collaborated with Jonathan Roberts on The Lion King, and he also co-wrote Hercules, The Lion King 1.5, Brave, Strange Magic, and worked on live-action segments for Fantasia 2000. And she did uncredited rewriting for Chicken Little. She also wrote the book for the Lion King stage musical adaptation with Roger Allers. Now, aside from The Lion King, co-writer Jonathan Roberts also co-wrote James and the Giant Peach, Dinosaur, the 2000 movie, Monsters, Inc., Homeward Bound, and a few episodes of Beverly Hills 90210. Now, Noni White and Bob Sudiker are married and have both worked on Anastasia, Tarzan, 102 Dalmatians, and most famously, Newsies. Now, in the novel, Claude Frollo is an archdeacon. Co-writer Tab Murphy changed him into a judge and justice minister to avoid any religious controversies. And you could say that Frollo's character was inspired by Ralph Fiennes' performance as Amon Goth in Schindler's List. Yeah, it's funny. Now I'm able to pronounce Amon Goth's name properly instead of when I couldn't pronounce it properly in the essential Steven Spielberg movies. For that, I apologize. Now, anyway, Claude Frollo's facial features in this movie were inspired by actors Stuart Granger and Hans Conried, which is interesting because Hans Conried was also the original voice of Captain Hook in Disney's Peter Pan. Now, anyway, Frollo was animated by Kathy Selinsky. Kathy Selinsky has animated Ursula from The Little Mermaid, Frank from The Rescuers Down Under, Jafar's appearances as a beggar, a cobra, and a genie in Aladdin, and eventually Kathy Selinsky worked for DreamWorks starting on Prince of Egypt. Ugh. Holy gaslighting, Batman. And of course, this is the second Disney animated movie that the late Tony Jay would provide for Disney after providing his voice in as the insane asylum head administrator in Beauty and the Beast. Here he really gets to shine, and Judge Claude Frollo is a piece of shit. He's the most despicable villain ever, and one of Disney's darkest. And Tony Jay's voice performance really does complement the performance, and he's really doing his greatest here. I mean, I just really like his voice performance, and his commanding voice is perfect. But it's funny. I mean, he also played a father figure in Twins, the a comedy directed by Ivan Reitman and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. He plays the father figure in Twins, and he's so much more gentle in Twins. He's such a more likable guy in Twins than he is in Hunchback, which really does show Tony Jay's range as an actor. Also, I think this is the first time we've heard Tom Hole sing, and yeah, it's actually a nice singing voice to really show his innocence and hope. Now, I understand some people have criticisms about this, and trust me, the descendants of Victor Hugo expressed their dismay at this adaptation, calling it a vulgar commercialization of his classic novel. Oh, there's Bill and, oh, poor Pumbaa. And there's the carpet from Aladdin. Now, Michael Jackson wanted to provide some vocals for some of the songs on the album soundtrack, but Disney didn't want to use him given the allegations made against him at the time. As most of the main Disney animators were concurrently working on The Lion King and Pocahontas at the time, freelance animators were drafted in from Canada, France, and the United Kingdom. Now, to prepare for the film, the production team took several research trips to Paris, touring hidden rooms, passageways, and tours of the Notre Dame Cathedral. And this film is also the second collaboration between Stephen Schwartz and Alan Menken after Pocahontas, which is pretty cool. I mean, I'm going to say it. If you held a gun to my head, I would say that Hunchback is Schwartz's best musical with Disney. And here we have our other second protagonist, Captain Phoebus. And that's Kevin Kline voicing him. Yep, that's France for you. The French are rude. Now, in most versions, in the novel, Captain Phoebus is less honorable in the book. He's a womanizer, he's dishonest, he's basically the secondary antagonist. And Phoebus's name is a reference to Phoebus, the alternate name of Apollo, Greek god of the sun and music. And here... Uh-oh. Alright, so the mustachioed guard is voiced by Corey Burton, who has been a frequent collaborator with Disney. He was also the voice of... He's voiced Captain Hook in various modern Disney projects, and he's also been the voice of... He also dubbed the composer's voice in newly released versions of Fantasia from 1940, and he also voiced and he also was the voice of... Well, he also voiced Brainiac on Superman the Animated Series and Justice League, and he was also the original voice of Spike Witwicky on Generation 1 of Transformers. That's right, show respect to your lieutenant, boy. Now, Phoebus is animated by Russ Edmonds, who also animated Oliver from Oliver and Company, Dodger from The Great Mouse Detective, Max from The Little Mermaid, and Cody from Rescuers Down Under, Philippe the Horse from Beauty and the Beast, co-animating Aladdin with Glenn Keane, Sarabi from The Lion King, Kala from Tarzan, Vinnie Santorini in Atlantis, Prince Naveen in The Princess and the Frog, and Tigger from the 2011 Winnie the Pooh movie. Ugh, and he's torturing him right now. Damn. Jeez Louise. It's like I type and the smartphone does unnecessary spaces when I didn't ask for them. Of course, Hunchback of Notre Dame was not Kevin Kline's first time voice acting. He actually established his voice acting career by doing voiceover work earlier in his career, including for the 1983 audiobook release of The Pirates of Penzance, where he reprised his famous role as the Pirate King. I did not know that. Well, now I know, and knowing is only half the battle. Peasant Festival. Huh. Actually sounds like most parties at Make America Great Again. Today. Ah, yes. Also, interestingly, Hunchback of Notre Dame was not Demi Moore's first time doing voiceover, because earlier in 1996, she voiced Dallas Grimes in Beavis and Butthead Do America, which is interesting. Yeah, this is definitely from Stephen Schwartz, as he's able to do both comedy and drama. But yeah, Hunchback of Notre Dame was actually Tom Hulce's first time doing voice acting, and he's been voicing Quasimodo ever since. I mean, he's voiced him in the sequel, and he even came out of retirement to reprise his role as Quasimodo for Once Upon a Studio, which I think is very nice, which really shows his loyalty to the character. Oops. Even the goat thing is like, yuck. Oof. And of course, he's smitten. Oh, I love that gag of the crab carrying the chef. Yeah, I do love these visual gags. I just love Frollo's non-verbal body language as he expresses disgust at Clopin, because he hates Romani. Now that's a nice entrance. Now Esmeralda is animated by Tony Fusil. Tony Fusil has animated Aladdin and Mufasa, and he's also done character designs for The Iron Giant, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Brave, Coco, and Incredibles 2. So Tony Fusil is a frequent collaborator of Brad Bird. Now, in most versions, Esmeralda usually isn't barefoot. She started becoming much more barefooted in the 1956 version of the movie. The filmmakers decided to make Esmeralda barefoot in this version because it helped make her character more free-spirited. And, you know, it kind of works in my opinion. Now, in the novel, Esmeralda's birth name is Agnes. She was kidnapped by Romani and traded for Quasimodo. In the book, her goal is to find her lost family, her only clue being a single red shoe, or maybe it's a green shoe, while her mother, Duella, has the other shoe, and eventually she does get reunited with her mother. This must have been fun to design. Goat gives him the boot. That ain't a mask. It's almost as if he ran into him once. And Frollo is so embarrassed. Roll credits. Sorry, I couldn't resist. You can tell I've been watching CinemaSins. It's actually funny how everything that's reviled is considered positive here. It's actually quite positive and nice. Oh yeah, Frollo's pissed. Oh, right in the nuts. If only it would end like this. And of course, that's Bill Fagerbach as the voice of that one guard who threw the tomato. What an asshole. And, yeah, this actually was not his first time providing voice acting for Disney, as the first time Bill Fagerback ever did voice acting was for the Disney animated series Gargoyles. This was before he was cast as Patrick in SpongeBob. Personally, I think my favorite voice performance of Bill Fagerback is actually as Bulkhead on Transformers Animated. You know, I never imagined when doing this commentary that I would be referencing Transformers, but here we are. Oh man, this is where things get really dark, and if this scene was done today, it would probably contribute to its PG rating for thematic elements. I say thematic elements in quotation marks, because does the term thematic elements really mean anything anymore? I don't know. Oh, and he's taking sadistic pleasure in that. You can tell with that smile on it. It's a very good animation, This is why Kathy Selinsky did a great job voicing the character. Sorry, yeah, I'm also getting sad. Now, the film, due to its dark and sexual themes, nearly became the third animated Disney feature film to receive a PG rating from the MPA in the US since The Black Cauldron and The Nightmare Before Christmas, and the film is pretty ballsy for a G rating. Ho 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 ho. Now, when Kevin Kline did the voice of Phoebus, the directors gave Kevin Kline a sword so that he'd portray the role. They also named the horse Achilles because it was funny to hear him say, Achilles, heel. Yeah, that's funny. Nah, that's not witchcraft. That's just smoke and mirrors, you idiot. Now, Tom Hulce was cast as Quasimodo following his first audition for the role, and according to the actor, he noticed during the audition that the Disney execs, producers, and directors were staring at the floor. It looked like everyone was at a memorial service until he noticed the floor was lined with storyboard sketches. According to Kirk Wise, the filmmakers like to audition the voices with our eyes closed so we see the character's face. That's actually an interesting method. Now, the original setting of the Hunchback of Notre Dame is January 6th, 1482, the day of the Feast of Fools, which was a popular festival during the Middle Ages. Now, the Feast of Fools was traditionally held around the 1st. And, of course, this is during the Middle Ages, specifically in France. The festival consisted of electing a false bishop or pope. The idea was that low and high officials traded places, which is pretty funny. Like I said, these are just interesting magic tricks. Go home. But yeah, this was Kevin Kline's first animated cinematic production. He would go on to voice Tullio in The Road to El Dorado from DreamWorks. Now, Quasimodo was originally portrayed as more monstrous, older, and with more of a speech impediment during the early rehearsals, but Tom Hulce commented that we experimented endlessly. At one point, I was ready to call in and say, things just aren't happening. Ultimately, the directors desired to portray Quasimodo with a younger voice different from the previous portrayal since Hugo described Quasimodo as 20. Additionally, Hulce was permitted to do his own singing after performing a demo recording of Out There. But yeah, in the novel, Quasimodo is 20 years old, while Esmeralda is 16. Now, desiring a huskier voice different from the leading Disney heroines, Demi Moore was cast as Esmeralda and met with Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz on singing. After several singing demos, the actress said, "You'd better get someone else," according to Schwartz. Whoop. The Latin chants heard throughout the movie are adapted from actual Gregorian chants, including a portion of Dies Irae music in the scene where Frollo kills Quasimodo's mother. It was part of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's famous last compositions, Requiem in D minor. And of course, Tom Hulce played Mozart in Amadeus. Ooh, burn. The Hunchback was the last Disney animated film to use very mild bad language, like hell and damn, until Cars. Yep. Even I pointed that out. Now, Esmeralda wore a red dress for her dance at the Feast of Fools, but in reality, the color red is considered bad luck to the Romani people. This might have been intended as Esmeralda had a conflict with Frollo during the film. Also, said red dress had a purple sash around the waist and purple sleeves, referencing the Whore of Babylon. Now, blue and red were used to symbolize good and evil, respectively. Quasimodo's and Esmeralda's disguising cloaks are blue, while the firelight Frollo is near as he plots evilly to himself reflects off his face as red. Holy loophole, Batman. Yeah, you have no power here. Ha 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 ha. Or, oh wait, I thought of something funny. Ha ha ha. You have no power here, bitch. Knowing that Esmeralda is 16 in the novel makes this scene way more uncomfortable. Now, Esmeralda has green eyes, the reason presumably being because Esmeralda is the Spanish and Portuguese word for emerald. During the Middle Ages, green eyes were often considered to be a sign of either magic, evil, and or witchcraft, which explains why many of Disney's earlier villains had green eyes, and therefore such was originally restricted to villains. This explains why she was designed to look malicious despite being the heroine, and why Frollo, who is outright evil, actually sees her as being evil despite her true good nature. Of all the of all the of all the films that Disney had made during his time as CEO, Hunchback of Notre Dame is actually Michael Eisner's favorite of the studio's films. Now, Tony Jay declared his role as Frollo as his bid for immortality. Now, in the film, as many other representations, Frollo calls the baby Quasimodo meaning half-formed, as a cruel comment on his appearance. In the novel, however, the name is liturgical. It was common for children to be named after the saint or religious celebration they were born on. Frollo found the boy on Quasimodo Sunday, the following Sunday to Easter, devoted to all newborn children which, according to the church, were only half-formed as they weren't baptized yet. So, Book Frollo, being a priest, named the child out of genuine devotion and care. Now, Esmeralda's singing voice was provided by Heidi Mollenhauer, who also did a lot of bar singing in New York. And so far, Hunchback of Notre Dame was Heidi Mollenhauer's only experience doing voice acting. And it's very beautiful. And really does show Stephen Schwartz's ability to do songs in both comedy and drama. Now, Bette Midler sang another version of God Help the Outcasts for the soundtrack release. Various words are changed, replacing gypsy with the word humble. The parts sung by the people in the church are omitted, and the song is much longer. Now, Quasimodo's monologue, which begins with, What am I supposed to do?" and ends with, "And I'm tired of trying to be something I'm not," was recorded in one take. In real life, the word gypsy supposedly meant that the Roma, that race's real name, is actually from Egypt and nowadays considered by them as being an insult, and that the Romani actually originated from the Indian states of Rajasthan, Haryana, and Punjab in India, which may explain the presence of bindi on Esmeralda's forehead on the Feast of Fools, and why her goat is given the name Jolly. Djali. D-J-A-L-I. Djali. After the film's initial release, a limited edition of printing of Victor Hugo's novel was also released. It contained original artwork and an introduction by producer Don Hahn. Now, before Tony Jay was cast as Frollo, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, and Derek Jacobi were considered for the role of Frollo. Isn't that interesting? Rude. Originally, the three gargoyles were named Cheney, Lawton, and Quinn, after the three actors who played Quasimodo in other adaptations of the story, Lon Chaney, Charles Lawton, and Anthony Quinn. The original voices of the gargoyles, respectively, were Sam McMurray, Charles Kimbrough, and Cyndi Lauper. Yeah, singer Cyndi Lauper. After Disney's legal department objected to using the actors' names, the Disney animators renamed two of the gargoyles as Victor and Hugo. Director Kirk Wise came up with the third name, Laverne, after Laverne Andrews of the Andrews Sisters. Over several years, the characters of the gargoyles were changed to make them reflect three sides of Quasimodo's personality. Eventually, the directors realized that they had to recast two of the voices. Charles Kimbrough was kept on as the voice of Victor, but McMurray and Lauper were reluctantly let go. In their place, the directors cast Jason Alexander as Hugo and Mary Wicks as Laverne. Nathan Lane was also considered for the voice of Hugo, but was unavailable due to his Broadway commitments. Now, while developing the movie, a few members of the feature animation crew went over to the TV animation building to study the distinctions of their gargoyles with the ones from, the TV show Gargoyles. Aw, he named the bells after, gave the bells names. That's cute. Oh, now that is a nice view. It's interesting, although the Archdeacon was the one who originally saved Quasimodo's life, the two are never seen together. Weird. According to the family of John Pertwee, who's best known for playing the Third Doctor on Doctor Who, and sadly died days before the film's release in the UK, this was the first Disney animated feature film he did not see in cinemas. When they went to see it, they cried halfway through God Help the Outcasts, because they were already feeling sad, and the sadness of the song just broke them. Well, that's sad. Now, several times during the film, there are references to a war. The conflict in question was the 100 Years' War between England and France that engulfed all Europe from 1337 to 1453 and also involved Portugal, Scotland, Genoa, Navarra, Aragon, Bohemia, Brittany, Castile, Aquitaine, and Burgundy. Ultimately, it was won by France and the reigning House of Valois. Yep, jolly. She pronounced it jolly. The D is silent. Shrek, I'm looking down! Ah! In the novel, Jolly is female and can do tricks, such as telling time and doing impressions of public figures for money, in addition to dancing with Esmeralda. Later, when Esmeralda is... I'll talk about it later. Now, Andreas Deja, who I mentioned animated, Gaston and Jafar and Hercules and Scar, really wanted to animate Esmeralda from the beginning of the film's conception, which would have been a stark departure for him. When that position went to Tony Fusil, Deja went on to supervise the animation of the titular character in the next animated film, Hercules. Now, Broadway actor Mandy Patinkin auditioned for the role of Quasimodo, but his audition was a disaster. To this day, it is known at Disney as the Patinkin Incident. According to the directors, Patinkin brought along his own arranger to do a new arrangement of the song Out There. This greatly angered composers Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz, who walked out of the audition. Patinkin's style of portraying Quasimodo also collided with the producer's demands, and he later stated, "I was just there at the audition and I said, I can't do this." He would go on to play Quasimodo in the movie The Hunchback of Notre Dame from 1997 after that, which co-starred Salma Hayek as Esmeralda. Now, Hunchback of Notre Dame is the first animated film to be produced in all three of Disney's animation studio divisions in Burbank, California, Orlando, Florida, and Paris, France. For the role of Phoebus, co-director Kirk Wise explained that, "As we're designing the characters, we form a short list of names to help us find the personality of the character." Subsequently, the filmmakers modeled his portrayal on the personalities of Errol Flynn and John Wayne, and one of the names on the top of the list all the time was Kevin Kline. So apparently, rock singer Meatloaf was nearly cast as Quasimodo. The directors loved the quality and range of his singing voice, but ultimately decided that Tom Hulce was a better match for Quasimodo when the character wasn't singing. Now, Laverne's name was at first considered to Marie, after Victor Hugo's middle name. Now, Victor and Hugo were animated by David Pruxma, while Laverne was animated by Will Finn. Now, of course, I mentioned the work that Will Finn and David Pruxma did when doing my commentary companions episode of Beauty and the Beast. So I'm probably not going to mention it here because that would be redundant. But yeah, please do listen to my commentary companions episode of Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, Tom Hulce really does give Quasimodo that gentleness even when he's singing, which is so sweet, you know? Also, this is the Disney animated film featuring the fewest number of trees. Also, this is the fifth and final Disney film to be set in France until Ratatouille. The previous four were Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, The Aristocats, and Beauty and the Beast. Although the setting for Cinderella has changed to somewhere between France and Germany due to when it takes place. We're finally getting a very famous song, starting with Hellfire, which is often considered one of the darkest Disney villain songs ever made. Now let me get the spoilers. Yeah, sure, you're totally righteous. Now, despite Frollo claiming to be a righteous man, he displays some form of all 7 deadly sins in the lyrics of Hellfire. This was likely done intentionally to show his hypocritical way of thinking. The lines of "My virtue I am justly proud," and "You know I'm so much purer than a common, vulgar, weak, licentious crowd" show him displaying pride, considered the most dangerous of the seven, as it is often used to justify the other six deadly sins, or even deny committing them in the first place. This is displayed frequently in the song and the film as a whole, and could be considered the first he has committed. Frollo's intense desire for Esmeralda to be his and his alone show lust, envy, and greed. Lust as the intense sexual desire for Esmeralda, especially her body alone. Envy towards anyone else who may gain her affections. Greed for seeing her as merely as an item to be gained and wanting her intensely even though he doesn't actually need her. His intent to destroy her if she does not comply is an example of anger and wrath. Frollo claiming it is not his fault he is sinning and blaming Esmeralda for tempting him can be seen as an act of sloth. And red-robed men who are singing choir are singing in Latin, my fault, my most grievous fault. As now, of course, he's committing the act of sloth as he's not taking the initiative to better himself, nor taking responsibility for his own sins. Gluttony is sometimes interpreted as selfishness, displayed when Frollo says he will burn down all of Paris, and despite what it would do to the innocents of the city to get to Esmeralda. Now, when Frollo sees Esmeralda dancing in the fire before him, the MPA insisted that the Disney animators make Esmeralda's clothing more well-defined because she looked to be nude. Oh yeah, that's a great plan. Now, Frollo is considered one of the darkest and most evil Disney villains, even more so than his original counterpart in the novel. Disney purposefully meant for him to be as evil as possible in an attempt to avert the trope, evil is cool, common to many Disney villains. Okay. Right up. What was Tony Jay's first... Hey! Ugh. Seems like I do it. What was Tony Jay's first voice acting role? Huh, that can't be right. $20 pieces. Now, Tony Jay's earliest major voice acting credit was providing additional narration and voice work for the 1989 English dub of Hayao Miyazaki's Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Shortly after, he landed his first prominent recurring television roles, including the magical wishing starfish in The Little Mermaid TV show, and Shere Khan in Tailspin, which helped establish his relationship with the Walt Disney Company. And one of Tony Jay's other well-known voice roles is as the Magic Mirror in some depictions of the Magic Mirror until his death in 2005. Which is interesting, you know? Nope, that's pretty much standing for what's right. Yeah, that's evil right there. And of course, not killing the kids definitely helps make sure if those people died, they would have got that film would have gotten would have lost its G rating. Oof, nice. Also, fun fact, Frollo's horse is named Snowball. I bet you didn't know that. Yeah, I can't let him steal Snowball. Ooh, right in the shoulder. Oof. That's not good. And I want guards in this order: tough, tough, soft, soft, tough, tough, soft, soft, tough, tough, soft. Sir, I think you've gone mad with power. Of course I've gone mad with power. You ever tried going mad without power? It's boring. No one listens. Stone-faced. As a friend. Yeah, apparently Jason Alexander had the potato chips before saying, I thought I was the cute one. Yeah, they're definitely in Quasimodo's head. Okay, that's funny. Yeah, it's possible the three gargoyles exist purely in Quasimodo's mind and are, in fact, split off portions of his own personality created to deal with his loneliness. While this is only a possibility, it should be noted that the only other character in the first film to actually see a statue come to life is Frollo in the midst of his insanity. However, the true nature of these statues is open to interpretation given Hugo's endless flirtations with the goat. Also, this is, what, oh wow, just, she could dangle as he plays with wooden figures of hanged men. Certain something more. Also, yeah, they're using various wigs as a reference to Tom Hulce's character in Amadeus. Since you're shaped like a croissant. Now, the film was originally pitched as a romance story between Quasimodo and Esmeralda. After Tab Murphy was hired and worked on the script for a few months, he refocused the story on Quasimodo's desire to be accepted by society and his stand against Frollo, as Murphy felt this was more important to the character than simply getting the girl, and made her end up with Phoebus. According to Murphy, he and the directors had to struggle throughout the entire production to convince the higher-ups that the ending would work, as there were concerns that audiences might find it disappointing, out of character for Disney, or even interpret it as sending the wrong message.
The creators had to ensure the audience clearly understood that Quasimodo got exactly what he wanted at the end, that his feelings for Esmeralda were rooted in friendship, not romance, and that Esmeralda did not choose Phoebus based on his looks. In fact, her initial distrust of him was emphasized to reinforce this point. The third act was re-storyboarded several times to tone down romantic moments between Phoebus and Esmeralda, including cutting their love song and removing Phoebus from the final battle with Frollo, so that the focus would remain on Quasimodo and his ultimate triumph. Yep, you could provide sanctuary. Yep, Quasimodo also means in a similar fashion to, a pretty boring name really, and indicative of Frollo's lack of imagination rather than his compassion. Now, Kevin Kline is the seventh Oscar winner to voice a character in a Disney film after Jeremy Irons and Whoopi Goldberg for The Lion King, Jack Albertson in Fox and the Hound, Peter Ustinov in Robin Hood, George Sanders in The Jungle Book, and George C. Scott in Rescuers Down Under. Mel Gibson, who voiced John Smith in Pocahontas, also won Oscars for Best Director and Best Picture for Braveheart, but this happened after his work in the film. Oh, this is funny. Apparently, Demi Moore was banned from bringing shrimp mayonnaise sandwiches on set due to the fact that she never refrigerated those sandwiches. That's kind of funny. Also, this is interesting. Tony Jay was initially unable to hit the high note that closes out the song, Hellfire, so he took voice coaching lessons to help him do it. According to animation model sheets for the film, the animators drew heavy inspiration from the artistic styles of Ronald Searle and Chuck Jones into the design of various background characters, blending influences from several of the studio's earlier works, such as 101 Dalmatians, The Sword and the Stone, and The Aristocrat Cats. Apparently, Demi Moore and Kevin Kline didn't have to audition for their roles. They were offered their parts directly. You know, Frollo and Mother Gothel have very similar traits as villains. They kidnap the main character, they forbid their children to head out to society by manipulating them that the world is cruel, and, well, you'll find out what happens to Frollo soon. He's able to make eating grapes look disturbing. That's how evil he is. Yeah, it's like a kid rushing to eat his vegetables. Phoebus is the first Disney hero to sport facial hair. Busted. Of course, blame Quasimodo for this. Oh, and you are? Although most protagonists in Disney animated theatrical releases are orphans, this is only the fourth to portray the death of a parent on screen. The previous films were Bambi, The Fox and the Hound, and The Lion King. In the two from the 90s, the body of the parent is seen on screen. Blood is shown only in Hunchback. Now, Frollo has been described as Disney's most evil character. However, some critics have also pointed out that, unlike real people, Frollo does not have a single redeeming trait. This was later revised in the musical adaptation, in which Frollo was turned, as in the novel, into the Archdeacon of Notre Dame, who raises Quasimodo out of genuine devotion and care instead of selfishness and fear. This makes his character arc more compelling and disturbing as he becomes as evil as his movie counterparts. You almost gave him a heart attack. Now, Phoebus getting hit by an arrow could symbolize Cupid's arrow because after he gets hit, Esmeralda then saves him, falls in love with him. The pair even lampshade this in Notre Dame when Esmeralda nurses his wound. Oh, yep, so Quasimodo is 20 in this movie. Don't know my own strength. But yeah, this version of Phoebus is way more honorable. Secret tunnel! Secret tunnel! Oh, wow. And bastard skellies. Yes, more, but I guess they can't really call it the Court of Bastard Skellies. Oh, maybe those bastard skellies aren't really dead, or maybe, oh yeah, that's right. They're not actual bastard skellies. You were saying about an ambush? Oh. And now the song, yeah, now I'm noticing that the song almost sounds like The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Rather like hornets protecting their hive. Yeah, they're as malicious as hornets. And I've been stung by them, I tell you what. Uh-oh. Good news tonight. Henchman? That's not nice. But you would think that Clopin would be nicer to Quasimodo since he was the king of the ugly. That's definitely Sorcerer's Apprentice. Be- yeah, that's not good. Yeah, time to GTFO. Uh-oh. Oof. You are outgunned, outmanned, outnumbered, outplanned. I swear these Romani live in Frollo's head rent-free. Oh, was that a rhyme? Of course, in the novel, it's actually way darker, way darker. Like Frollo nearly kills, pretty much attempts to murder Phoebus, and then he frames Esmeralda for it. And when Esmeralda is framed for the attempted murder of Phoebus, he pretty much says nothing to prove her innocence, and so Esmeralda, well, Esmeralda is given a choice to either, you can be with me, you can be with Frollo, or you can be executed. And Esmeralda is like, no way, Jose. And, oh, no, you don't. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye. See, I didn't know that was Jason Alexander voicing Hugo. Of course, this was back when I didn't watch Seinfeld. Ouch. Jeez, I swear Frollo loves hearing the sound of his own voice. Well, of course, I'm one to talk. Now, of course, in the novel, it's way more depressing because Esmeralda does not get saved from execution. She pretty much dies. Yeah, she dies getting executed, and when Quasimodo sees her dead body, he pretty much takes her to a cemetery, and soon we see Quasimodo has died, and his skeleton cradling her skeleton. It's bittersweet and sad. Phoebus actually does survive, but he gets a sort of comeuppance as he's then reduced to a pretty much has an unhappy marriage after that, and that's pretty much fate worse than death, being in an unhappy marriage. And this entire shot was not CG. This was animated entirely by James Baxter. It is not CG at all, and it is a very well done shot. I love it. Yeah, it's like he's had enough of this whole sanctuary BS. Also, yeah, Clopin also dies in the battle in the novel. Some of the clouds were actually were actually portrayed using computer animation to make the characters look more 2D animated. I think it also might have been caps, but yeah, the CG that looks like 2D actually holds up pretty well. Feeble. He did. Harder, daddy. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Did he say damn it or dang it? And they used the goofy holler, which is pretty funny. You can never go wrong with the goofy holler, I tell you what. Uh-oh. Sorry. The iPad almost fell. Not again! I love how... Now, I remember this Wizard of Oz reference. Which is funny since, Stephen Schwartz did Wicked. Coincidence? Probably, yes. Uh-oh. Holy lava, Batman! Maybe that might have been a bit extreme. Okay, this is what Jason Alexander had to say about Hunchback. He said, and I quote, Disney would have us believe Hunchback of Notre Dame's like the Ringling Brothers, for children of all ages. He would not take his then 4-year-old child to view the film. Like I said, it's way more depressing in the novel. Also, I like that the music references the deleted song Someday. Was Hunchback of Notre Dame the first Disney movie to be nominated for a Golden Raspberry Award? Of course, use the whole justification. Now, this movie is also the first Disney movie to be nominated for a Golden Raspberry Award, as it was nominated for Worst Written Film, grossing over $100 million. It's also the only animated feature in history to have ever been nominated for both a Razzie and an Oscar in the same year, as it also received an Oscar nod for Best Original Musical or Comedy Score. You tell him, Quasi. Now, the filmmakers originally wanted Esmeralda to kill Frollo in order to save Quasimodo. Esmeralda would have jumped onto the ledge, then grabbed Quasimodo's hand. Frollo would have attempted to kill Quasimodo with his sword, then Esmeralda would have kicked Frollo off the cathedral, causing Frollo to fall to his death. This idea was ultimately abandoned as having a heroine kill the villain was considered improper in a Disney film and may have gotten the film a PG-13 rating. I mean, could you imagine if Hunchback of Notre Dame had been the first Disney animated movie to be rated PG-13? My goodness, yeah, that would have been, probably would have been considered ballsy. Maybe, it would have been cool if they did a PG-13 version of Hunchback of Notre Dame. Okay, I think you can let it go, Quasimodo. Yeah, I think Frollo made that shit up.
Hello! I'm here to send you to hell, motherfucker!
Oh, yeah, that is definitely one of the most satisfying villain deaths, right up there with Mother Gothel and also Mother Gothel and Gaston. You know, if I had a nickel for every time a Disney villain was an abusive parental figure who fell to their death, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's strange that it's happened twice. Now, the filmmakers briefly considered having Quasimodo killed off, since that is his fate in the original novel. He was originally supposed to be stabbed by Frollo, then Esmeralda regains consciousness and tries to save him by killing Frollo. Phoebus was then supposed to meet up with them, and Quasimodo's last wish was to ring the bells one last time. They take him to the bells, then Esmeralda and Phoebus help him ring the bells as he dies. The final shot was going to include Esmeralda and Phoebus crying over their best friend as the people of Paris cheer for their success, unaware of Quasimodo's death. Luckily, this is not the ending that was used, because even hardcore fans of the novel agreed that the ending they used instead was a more suitable conclusion for the theme of this film. I mean, if they had pretty much made this film under the Touchstone banner and made it a PG-13 animated film with Touchstone, that ending probably would have worked. It would have been it probably would have been considered one of Disney's best mature animated films if they had gone that route. But this G-rated version with this specific ending, it's actually very nice. Also, interestingly, the music is using part of the climax from Beauty and the Beast. Same composer. Honestly, words don't even need to be spoken here to show that Quasimodo is now accepted among everyone. And of course, it feels appropriate that the final song concludes with the bells of Notre Dame. I can't hit that high note. I don't know. The way he sang Bells of Notre Dame the first time was better, if you ask me. Apparently, those birds on Laverne do not migrate. This is true, actually. And of course, and that was The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Does it hold back 30 years later? Well, in my humble opinion, yes, it does hold up 30 years later. It's beautifully animated, it's very mature, and rightfully mature, and pretty much even if it takes creative liberties, I think the film benefits from the creative liberties while still being dark enough to be considered one of Disney's most mature films. And I think it's better than Pocahontas. Yeah, I said what I said, which is, then again, maybe I have no right saying that Hunchback of Notre Dame is better than Pocahontas due to the fact that I've never seen Pocahontas from beginning to end, but, I personally like it, and I like the songs, I like the animation, I like the voice acting. It's a very good film, and I can see why it got, it has such a great legacy 30 years later. And I think it's better off as a one-and-done movie. I'm not even going to acknowledge the sequel. But yeah, I can see why they wanted to make it a stage adaptation in 1999. But yeah, I think Hunchback of Notre Dame is a great film, one of the best in my opinion. But anyway, that was my commentary on The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney animated movie. Anyway, thanks for listening to my Commentary Companions episode of the film. Be sure to like and subscribe. Don't have a good day. Have a great day.